So proud, so brave, so free. You set it afire, light the sky, and your spirit is one with me. Your wings span the mighty ocean. Your eyes see everything. The slightest of your motions can make the continents ring. Yet in all your might and glory, vanished from the skies, leaving just another story, mysteries of man-made life. They tell of how you fell from the sky, your once proud future.
I really like that. I wrote that. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Clay Douglas. This is the Free American Hour, and my guest today is Bob Chapman, the international forecaster. Hello, Bob. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Well, you're sounding pretty good for a guy that's older than me.
Well, I guess I'm blessed.
Bob, a lot of things happening stateside here. Tell me what is your take and what's going on with this new defense bill that's supposed to make America into the battleground. And I want to stress that in the film that I did, the first Homeland Security meeting that I filmed right after they rolled FEMA into it, given by Colonel Brinkerhoff, he said we're in for a long war, and this war is going to be fought on American soil, and their enemy is weak. The enemy doesn't have helicopters, doesn't have planes, so the enemy's going to use unconventional methods, and we must use unconventional methods too. Sounds like what he's talking about is the bill that they just passed here. Now, has that passed? Has that gone through? Is that what's the update on that?
The bill was passed in the Senate only yesterday, and it now goes to the House. I don't have the number in front of me. If you can Google it while I'm on the air here, it would be a good idea. We should give it out.
Okay, I'll see if I should have that somewhere.
You people out there should absolutely inundate every congressman, every House of Representatives member. What this bill does in regard to American citizens is allows the government, without indictment or subpoena or any reason, it allows government to pick you up wherever you may be for whatever reason that they would like to do so, and they can incarcerate you in a internment camp or send you to Guantanamo, where you will be tortured until you tell them that you really did what they're saying that you did.
Now, this is Senate Bill 1867, Bob, and it was sponsored.
Well, that's history now, because it's been passed.
It was introduced by John McCain, Songbird McCain, and Carl Levin.
That's correct. What we want to know is the equal number in the House of Representatives. I didn't write it down yesterday when I was on the air, and I apologize. I only can do so much.
I understand.
Now, what this bill does is it allows the federal government to call anybody, for any reason, a terrorist. If you speak out and you say, I think the federal government is wrong in having Obamacare, you can be picked up as a terrorist and incarcerated. If you belong to a group that espouses constitutional issues, that's terrorist activity.
You mean, in other words, what they've done, Bob, is turn the whole idea of our militia into making the militia actually terrorists. That's why they blew up the Oklahoma City building, federal building, and that's what they're. That's the plan, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, you people who are outspoken like we are must keep your mouth shut from here on out if that bill passes the House. And if Ron Paul is, and I don't think they'll do anything under this bill to speak of until after the next election, if there is one. And we'll assume that there's going to be an election. And if Ron Paul is not elected and people like him are not elected, then I would think that they'll start picking people up. And you don't even have to say anything if you're well known like we are. They'll just try to come and find you and pick you up and take you away. And you won't be on the radio anymore, or you won't be writing anymore. You'll be tortured. And, of course, the torturing result will be that you'll have confessed to all these terrible crimes like you disagree with the government. And you'll be kept in jail indefinitely, or maybe you'll just disappear. Clay and I will disappear. That's why I don't live in the United States, because I knew this was coming. And I've been threatened enough times, just like you have, Clay. And so, if we get Ron Paul as president, we got a shot. And he can bring that to a halt. But if he is not elected president and we don't get these people to help him into office, you got two choices. You hope that they don't find you, number one. Number two, get out of the country. Now, what I envision here between now and into 2015 is hyperinflation. And people are going to be hard-pressed to eat. Unemployment is not going to get better, it's going to get worse. Inflation in 2014 and 15 should approach 50%. This is where we're headed with this thing. And during that time period, because of the chaos caused by hyperinflation, they will probably put on capital controls, which means you will not be able to move money in or out of the United States unless it's been approved by the federal government. You won't be able to take vacations to any place else in the world unless the government approves it, and all funds for that vacation will be given to the federal government, and they will in turn pay the vendors on the other end. There'll be great limitations to where you can go. If you leave the country for a vacation, you will be thoroughly searched. It'll take probably 3 or 4 hours. You'll be interrogated, particularly coming back into the country, and we're seeing it already. I have a letter in tomorrow's issue to that effect.
Oops, hold on. Bob, I just lost you here. Hold on a minute. Let me get this back.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we're reconnecting you now.
ICE people.
Okay, I'm sorry, Bob. Repeat that.
Very good at what he did and was courteous. The other one was an animal.
Well, they certainly don't like me making this call here. This is twice I've been cut
Since it
off.
appears you're calling back into a live, connecting you now.
To take as much of your assets away from you as possible. I got a letter this morning from Italy.
This has never happened to me before. I've had the phone call
Since it
disconnected.
appears you're calling back into a live show, we're reconnecting you now.
Juventus and so on.
Bob, just
But anyway,
Bob,
they said that they're putting all kinds of taxes on people that they just can't.
Shit.
Since it appears you're calling live show, we're reconnecting you now.
And
Bob,
so get ready for
Bob, let me apologize to
it. You don't want to be in Europe. You don't want to be in the United States.
Bob. Okay. It's just Blog Talk Radio. It's the only one that's going off.
And
Bob, can you hear me?
The next group would be
Bob?
Cut.
Censored to a live show. We're reconnecting you now.
About this sort of thing.
Bob, can you hear me, Bob?
But there will come a time, and you do have a time frame now. If you're going to think in those terms, you better do it now. The
live show. We're reconnecting you now.
Every company, 8 employees, one of them will be a spy. 8,000 employees, lots of them will be spies. And they were. This is what the Stasi and the NKVD did. The NKVD in Soviet Russia, the Stasi in Eastern Germany, and before that, of course, the Gestapo. This is exactly what they did. In fact, after the wall came down, they found that about 60% of the population in Eastern Germany was spying on the other people in Eastern Germany. And they also found about 20% of the population in Western Germany was working for Eastern Germany. And no one was ever brought to court or prosecuted for doing that in either place. And Marcus Wolf, who ran the Stasi, who I used to work against in counterintelligence, was let off scot-free. He was responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths. I mean, this guy was an animal. And so what did they do? They took the best people in the Stasi and the NKVD, just like they did after the Second World War in Operation Paperclip. They brought them to the United States so they could tell how they controlled people. Now they're doing the same thing again. And they're going to have everybody spying on everybody else. And let's say that Joe down the corner, I don't like him because of something he does. And so I turn him in because I don't want him around. So there goes Joe off to the internment camp. His wife and children are left there. There's no source of support. I mean, what are they to do? And this is going to be an ongoing thing year after year. And what Brinkerhoff was talking about was revolution. That was the final analysis of his insight.
That's
and they
why,
know it's coming.
You know, Bob. It just occurred to me. It's like I've had a, I say I've been under psychological warfare. You and I both under psychological warfare. They try to take your friends away. They turn your family against you. They tell everybody around you that you're crazy, and you've always got the Jew in the woodpile that's going, oh, he's anti-Semitic. He's anti-Semitic. You know, it's the same thing. But
hello.
Can you hear me, Bob? Okay.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, connecting you now.
Bob, we're getting blocked. They keep. I've been off of the air. I've been unable to hear you 3 times.
Yeah, well, that's our friendly government.
Yes, sir. And
what we're talking, they'd love to know where I am, but screw them. They're not going to find out.
What we're talking
and
about.
If they do come for me, they better have taken some toxic solution to make them bulletproof.
These attacks, I call it deja vu. You know, they attacked me back in 2004. They attacked me before that when I blew the whistle on Operation Watchtower. You know, the drug running thing. And I've just pulled up the whole story about the assassination of Barry Seal. I had met Barry Seal. You know, back in Dallas years ago when he was just running pot. When he started running cocaine for Bush and Clinton into Clinton's Mena, Arkansas, they killed him. They murdered him. I've got that whole story that I'm putting up.
They murdered him because he took films of what was going on.
That's right, and Terry Reid confirms that, his book Compromised. Terry Reid was on the plane when Barry Seal delivered the kilo, and filmed it. Barry Seal delivered the cocaine to Bush and Jeb and George together. But that's when I blew the whistle on the whole Operation Watchtower and Bush's drug running scheme. In a motorcycle magazine, that's when they first noticed me, I guess, and I've been under attack ever since. And I just, it was like an epiphany, Bob. What I did by starting the militias, when I started the Free American, was absolutely the right thing to do. And the only problem is that we didn't get it rolling then. We were the biggest threat to them. And that's why I've been demonized so much by the ADL. I did it in the governor's office. There wasn't a terrorist group. We worked for the sheriffs, still supporting the sheriffs, and they've attacked me again over this event I was trying to put on for the local sheriff. It's psychological warfare, and it's been effective because I stopped doing what I was doing. I couldn't keep the Free American going, and I couldn't keep the militias going after Oklahoma City. But I think I was doing
totally ineffective against me. Every 2 or 3 weeks they come up with something new. But it's okay. I don't even pay him any attention. It doesn't do any good.
Well,
I just keep on doing what I'm doing.
I just can't bring myself to leave this country. And you know, I thought I was pretty well informed. I lived in Miami, man. I read the morning news every morning, watched the Today Show. And I thought I was pretty informed until suddenly I discovered, the whole drug industry that I'd been on the fringes of in the paraphernalia industry. Helped start Normal, helped start High Times. I was on the fringes of that, and then suddenly I found out the CIA was bringing all the drugs into this country, and studying it. That's what they've been doing for hundreds of years, not thousands of years. I mean, that's what they drugged the people of China to set up this whole, communist country that you can grow hemp in, but you can't grow it here. Tell me about China. Tell me about China. This is communist China. So is this the same communist that controlled the Soviet Union? Is this the same communist that controlled Washington? Is this all a game that they're pitting the billions of Chinese and the billions of Muslims against us white Christians? We're kind of the minority now, aren't we? Aren't we the Jews of the 21st century?
Well, it could be. But China is controlled from Washington to a great extent. They have to be in a pretty dire position to act against Washington, although Washington may want them in a war with Washington. That's a hard one to call because they have so many plans. You don't know which ones they're going to end up using. It's just like the situation in Syria right now. The Russian fleet's there. The American representation of their fleet is there. Russia is delivering anti-ballistic missiles to Iran in order so they can protect themselves. Will Russia get involved? We don't know. Is Russia controlled by the same people who control Washington and China? Maybe. We don't know. And you don't know unless you're in the inside, and even then, you only know part of the plan, and that part of the plan may never get executed. So there's all kinds of facets to this thing, and that's how it's so difficult to figure out what the future is going to bring, what direction they're going to take. But as far as that law passed in the Senate, which is going to the House, that is very recognizable for what it is. The problem is the public doesn't know anything about it. They've deliberately kept it out of all the media.
Yes, sir.
The only people who know about it are the people who listen to programs like this or read publications like mine. And the rest of the public, they probably 75% of them don't know that anything like that even exists. And that's what is so important about control of the media. But anyway,
I've got an article that I'll be putting up later about the media blackout of the National Defense Authorization Act. It's the broadcast media's unwillingness to cover this National Defense Authorization Act is totally unacceptable to me. But this is what you're talking about. I mean, what do we call this? Is this a military junta? Is this a secret invalidation of America's civil rights? Or a Congress goes mad? And whatever it is, it needs to be covered by the press. What about Anderson
sounds
Cooper?
Like they cut you out again.
Yeah, what about Anderson Cooper? What about Brian Williams? What? Oops. Yep, they cut me off again. Okay, we're trying to do this. We're bringing it back. Come on.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, now.
Well, Bob, I hardly.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here too. I'm here too, and they are still. Even when I'm not here, it's still being recorded on Blog Talk or radio. Hopefully everything's working, and I am recording it on TalkShoe, and we're also on Crusade. So, just if I don't, it automatically reconnects us. So. But somebody's definitely screwing with us today. I've never had a phone line go down 6 times in one show.
Well, it happens to me every day. But that's okay. We just keep on doing what we do. And they'll try their best to do what they can do, and that's the way it has to be looked at. That's all. Obviously, we have something important to say that they don't want the world to know about.
Well, I think...
But anyway, what's that?
What about the militia? What about the whole concept of the militia? That is the American people. That's all 20... Every able-bodied person between the ages 18 and 45 could be called up by the governor. Are the governors? I know the sheriffs are waking up because Richard Mack is trying to organize a conference right now up in Las Vegas of the sheriffs, trying to raise enough money to get them there. But what about the governors? What about state legislators? Are they waking up, or are they just so hooked into this whole Federal Reserve scam that they won't take the steps necessary to revert it back to the control of the people? And now,
well,
if you're speaking up and for the people, that makes you a terrorist, and they'll be rounding us up. People will start disappearing the same way they did in Argentina, the same way they did, every occupied country in the world.
I think you're right. But anybody who previously has been involved will be a target first. Everybody who's been around speaking out about what's going on is going to become a victim. Not this year, but after the election, they'll start doing it. If Ron Paul's not elected. And that's the way it will be. And they've got all of the precursors of what totalitarian states have done previously in Russia and Germany and places like that. So they have professional advice from people who are also criminals to do what they want to do with the American people. So that's the way it's all headed, unless you can stop this legislation. And you listeners, it's up to you. You have to do it.
We will try to get that information out. Just send me an email, Bob, whenever you get the name of the House bill. But they did this. The framework for this was already set up. You know, the Patriot Act formed. They didn't quite get it through with Oklahoma City, but they did with 9/11, and they set us up for this with the, what was it, Senate Bill 1955, House Bill 1959, on the American terrorist, you know, the people with the Ron Paul bumper stickers on, and they set up the fusion centers here. The fusion centers have militarized the police, and what you're seeing, instead of seeing the police escorting the marchers down on Wall Street and Occupy Wall Street, they should have escorted them to the doors of the Federal Reserve and let them protest there, and protested with them. Instead, they put us against them. I mean, that's so it looks like the whole Occupy movement, according to the press, you know, you think of the Occupy movement, what do you think of? You know, some guy taking a shit on a police car. Is this part of the psychological warfare on the American people, or is this a way they're going to get the police to oppose the people, to make the whole martial law scenario and this terrorist bill, if it goes through the House, to just sweep us in? I mean, we've already talked about the FEMA camps. They're out there. They're empty, but they're out there.
Well, I think what you say is so. I think the bill that we're talking about that just got passed in the Senate and has now gone to the House, that bill, as I said, it passed, won't really be acted on until after the election. And the first thing they'll do is pick up all the leadership people and incarcerate them. And at the same time, they'll have these people who are involved, the hardcore in this Occupy movement, they will have them create disturbances which will create violence, which they hope will lead to revolution. And so I see that as two factors as well.
You know, people have talked about a revolution, and my response has always been, as you know, somebody that tried to organize and train militias, is that we're not the rebels. You know, all we're trying to do is support the Constitution. You know, our founding fathers, you know, established this country. All we're doing is trying to live up to that oath we took when we signed on to the military. You know, it's the rebels are in control. The communists are in control, and maybe I'm missing the finer points of this, Bob. I refer to the Republicans and the Democrats as two wings of the same bird. The bird's a global vulture; it ain't an eagle. And what's the difference between the fascist and the communist exactly? Maybe I'm unclear.
About 3 inches. And it's the same groups that have been created and funded for a long time by the Illuminati, and they're behind the whole thing. But the idea is to get rid of the opposing leadership in the country that is known, and that'll happen if it's passed in a year or a year and a quarter. But any of you who have been involved in anything like that, you'll be immediately picked up once they start. And, you know, they'll hit thousands of people at one time.